Hello, I'm Dan Huckabee, and I've been teaching guitar for 30 years to people of all ages. I've taught visually impaired, people with fingers missing, and people that think they're slow learners, and I've seen every problem that causes frustration. I've eliminated all these problems so that you can learn quickly and easily. My motto is, the right way is the easy way, and believe me, the right way is the quickest too. Most people who decide they want to learn guitar give up within the first month. This program is designed to make sure that doesn't happen to you. The most common reason people give up is simply because they're learning on a guitar that is too difficult to play. This makes it difficult to mash the strings down with your fingers. The second most common reason is being forced to learn too many things all at the same time. The Suzuki violin method is the most famous music system that moved away from the old procedure of giving the beginner too much all at once. As a matter of fact, the best teachers in the world, whether they're teaching golf, swimming, or guitar, all stress that when you're learning something new, you can only think about one thing at a time. Therefore, in this program, you won't be expected to think about counting, strum patterns, right hand technique, or reading sheet music while you're learning to form your chords. Once your chords become a habit, you won't have to think about them anymore, and you can concentrate on another aspect of your learning. This program is designed to solve all the problems that would cause you to have difficulty. So we're going to address each of these problems and eliminate them all before they have a chance to work against you. You'll simply enjoy the guitar and succeed whether you're a kid, an adult, or a sexy senior citizen. First, let's learn the names of the parts of the guitar starting at the top. You've got the head or headstock, the tuners or tuning keys, the nut, the fretboard or fingerboard, the individual frets, the fret markers, the body, the sound hole, the pick guard, the strings, the bridge, and the saddle inserted in the bridge. The body consists of the top, which is the vibrating surface of the guitar, and the sides and the back, which both serve to reflect and bounce the sound out of the sound hole after the top has vibrated to create the sound. I mentioned earlier that the most important thing for everyone is that your guitar be easy to play. For kids and people with small hands, your guitar might need to be a little smaller. This doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go out and buy a special guitar for the kids either. Kids outgrow clothes fast enough as it is, and you really don't want to have to buy a new guitar every month for a growing young'un. Anyway, they do make small guitars, and most of these are inexpensive. But even better is to start learning on a tenor guitar or a ukulele. Regular guitars have 6 strings, while ukes and tenors have just 4 strings. Basically, ukes and tenor guitars are the same thing as regular guitars with the lowest 2 strings missing. The first few lessons in this program don't use the last 2 strings anyway, so you might consider starting with a ukulele or a tenor guitar. I personally started with a uke when I was a kid. So don't go out and buy something special before you're sure you intend to stick with it. Just know that you can use a 3/4 size guitar, a tenor guitar, or a ukulele for the purpose of having something that fits when you're just starting out. Maybe you can borrow one or find one in a garage sale cheap. Next, for everyone big and small, is having the strings easy to mash down with your fingers. This is the biggest secret to starting out on the guitar. There are several ways to skin this cat. The easiest thing to do is to buy lighter gauge strings or nylon strings. Nylon is softer and lighter strings aren't as tight, therefore they're easier to mash down with your fingers. The other way to make it easier to play is to have your action lowered. This is done by a guitar repairman at your local music store, or you could do it yourself if you're into tinkering and would like to save some money. This will place the strings closer to your fingerboard and make them much easier to mash down, no matter how light the gauge or whether they're nylon or steel. Okay, there are 4 ways to lower your strings, and any one or all 4 may do the job for you. Number 1 is to lower the nut. This is the nut, and it can be shaved from the bottom by sanding, which will lower all 6 strings at once. Or each string slot can individually be filed deeper with a small file so that the strings will be closer to the fingerboard and frets. If some strings feel like they're already low enough, but others seem too high, you might take the individual approach and file just the ones that need it the most. This is my favorite method because it gets the strings closer to the fingerboard in the area where beginners are playing the most, which is down around the first 3 frets. As a matter of fact, everyone, even the pros, play down in this area more often than they do up the neck, and pros like for their guitars to be easy to fret too. Most of us discover this trick after we've suffered through our beginning time period the hard way. Next is to lower the bridge, which is a similar process. It's not common to deepen the slots down here, but getting it lower makes it easier to play, especially when you're playing leads up the neck, which is more common for electric than acoustic guitar. Some guitars have adjustable bridges that can be lowered as easy as turning a screw. Others are fixed and require a little more effort and expertise. The third trick for making your guitar easier to play is to file the frets. When a guitar is new, sometimes the height of each fret varies. That is to say, some of the frets will be taller than others. Ideally, they all need to be even, and if they're all the same height, you can lower your strings farther without getting rattling and buzzing sounds caused by an occasional fret that's taller than the rest. The last way to make your strings lower is to adjust the neck angle. The reason you might need the neck adjusted would be if your strings are much farther away from the fingerboard down by the bridge than they are up around the first 3 frets. The strings are supposed to be a little higher off the fingerboard down toward the bridge than up near the nut, but when it's higher than necessary, it's harder to fret. This can be the most difficult and expensive solution. You don't want to spend more money than you can afford, and a complete neck reset is sometimes prohibitive for your pocketbook. Do keep it in mind, though, that some necks are adjustable, and it wouldn't cost you anything to tighten a truss rod. The neck adjustment is located under a cover plate on the headstock, and you need to know what you're doing to make this adjustment. The good news is that you'll probably be able to get your guitar easy enough to play without having to get this drastic. So the bottom line is that you want your guitar to be user-friendly on your fingers, and to get set up with something that fits and is easy to play is very important, and you have lots of options depending on your budget, anywhere from getting softer strings to a complete overhaul. Keep in mind that all musical instruments need to be set up before they're played to fit the individual, because guitars aren't set up and ready to play when you buy them. After you've gotten your guitar properly set up, it's got to be in tune. Not just in tune to itself, but in tune with whoever you're going to be playing with, which in this case is me. There have been many different procedures for tuning in the past, but these days most everybody uses an electronic tuner. I hate to make you start spending more money, but lately tuners have become really cheap and there's plenty of used ones around too. It's the easiest way to tune and will save you so much time and headache that you'll be glad I insisted. When you buy your tuner, ask the salesman to show you how it works by tuning your guitar with it. This way you'll start out in tune and you'll know how to use the tuner yourself when it gets out of tune later. First, I'm going to tune myself up to this tuner and then I'll play my strings so you can tune to me if you don't have your tuner yet. Remember, if you don't trust your own ear, the tuner tunes you up by sight, so literally anyone can do it. The first trick to know is that tuning one string affects another, therefore you shouldn't worry about getting a string perfect on the first pass. Just get it pretty close, then move on to the next one. After you've finished all 6, go back and tune each one a second time. The next trick is that you should always start too low on purpose so that you can tune up rather than down. If your string is too high, you should tune it down a little too low on purpose so that you can approach from underneath and move up in pitch. If you tune down, it won't stay in tune as well because tuning up holds it in place better and prevents slipping better than tuning down does. So after you've gotten something that fits your size and is easy to play, and we're in tune together, we're ready to go. We're going to start by learning a song that everyone can use, the world's most universal song. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday dear Nancy, happy birthday to you. Okay. There are 3 chords in this song. A chord that uses 1 finger, a chord that uses 2 fingers, and a chord that uses 3 fingers. G, which uses your 3rd finger at the 3rd fret on the very first string, and then the C chord, which uses your 1st finger on the 1st fret of the 2nd string, and your 2nd finger goes on the 2nd fret of the 4th string. And then D, which uses 3 fingers. Your 1st finger is on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and your 2nd finger is on the 2nd fret of the 1st string, and your 3rd finger goes on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. There are 2 tests to see if your chord is sounding good. First, you can pluck each individual string that you've fretted. If the string thuds like this, it either means that you're not mashing down hard enough or you need to scoot your finger up a little closer to the fret like this. The closer you get to the fret, the easier it is to mash down successfully because it doesn't take as much strength when your finger is closer to the fret. Just say to yourself, it's fun to play the guitar, it's not fun to work the guitar. When you're first starting, it can hurt a little because strings are thin and sharp to the tender, uncalloused fingers. Again, having your guitar set up with a low action will help tremendously. Next, you should strum all the strings. Keep in mind that it's easier to make one string ring nicely than it is to make the whole chord ring nicely. It's a step-by-step process that's difficult at first, but gets easier as you go along. The next thing you should troubleshoot for is to test strings that are supposed to be left open. In other words, strings that no fingers are depressing. You might expect the open strings to sound good automatically, but you'll discover that sometimes other parts of your hand can inadvertently touch one of the strings that's not supposed to be fingered. This will mute the string and give it the thudding sound. Don't worry, it happens to all of us. It's part of the learning process. All you can do to alleviate the problem is to try to see what part of your hand is muting the string that you don't want to mute and try to move it out of the way. So first, you got to find where your fingers go, then you got to memorize all three chords and how your fingers shape when they're making them, and then you got to practice them over and over till you can get set up for each chord without hesitation. Hey, that third thing is the real tricky part, isn't it? Yes, in order to be able to change chords quickly, you got to practice over and over. The good news is there's a shortcut to practicing that'll allow you to get your changing skill in a snap. What we're going to do is concentrate on strumming G for just one strum and then just alternating it with C over and over. When we get tired of that, we can do the same thing with G and D. And then with C and D. Now we've practiced all the combinations, so we can go back to Happy Birthday, and we won't be hesitating as long to get from one chord to the other. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday dear Nancy, happy birthday to you. Okay, it can take a week or so sometimes to be able to change those chords without hesitation, depending on how much you practice each day, so give yourself some time. Your hands have to get used to making those forms quickly. It's just like typing or anything else. Practice, practice, practice. When you get tired of practicing, go ahead and quit for the day, then come back the next day and practice some more. If you practice too much, your fingertips will get sore and you might want to put it down for a while. Everyone's fingers get sore at first, but if you quit before they get too sore, you'll build up a tough callus sooner on your fingertips. Now that we know these three chords, we can use them on thousands of other songs. Hey, that'll keep you from getting bored with practicing, and you'll really be getting fast while you're having fun. Remember when you learned long division? Your teacher taught you the formula, then she gave you 15 long division problems to take home for homework. Okay, we just learned three chords, so let's use them on a bunch of songs for homework, fun, and practice. Here's a good one everybody's heard.